Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fayette County primary election debate for the primary election, which is scheduled for Tuesday, May 7th of this year, 2024. We're starting this evening with the County Council at large races. We have 5 candidates here for that race, in which you can vote for 3 of those candidates. My name is William Carroll. I am the executive editor of both the Southern Indiana News Group and the Central Indiana News Group. Our local paper here, the Connersville News Examiner, is part of the Southern Indiana News Group. And again, I oversee those, and I'm here to act as your moderator this evening for the County Council race, which we'll do immediately following my little soliloquy here. And then we will also do later the County Commissioner District 2 and County Commissioner District 3 races. I'd like to, if the candidates are ready, start with the candidate to my left. If you could introduce yourself in a couple of minutes, and then we'll just go around the table with all the candidates introducing themselves.
Great. I'm Gabe Nobbe, a lifelong resident of Fayette County and Connersville. Been here for a long time. I've taught agriculture and ran the FA program out at the high school for the past 22 years. I have a beautiful wife, Megan, who's also from Fayette County, and 2 wonderful kids, Cora and Emmett, who someday I hope will be valedictorians for both of them.
Hi, my name is Connie Durham. I'm also lifelong resident of Connersville. I am a radiologic technologist, which means X-ray tech, at Reed Health. I'm married. My husband's name is Jamie. I have a grown son and a new daughter-in-law, Taylor, and looking forward to being here tonight.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Scott Bevington, and for the last nearly 4 years, it's been my honor to serve as one of your at-large county council people. I grew up here, and my wife Diana and I have 4 kids and 3 grandkids. Really look forward to talking about the issues tonight, and thank you to everybody who helped put this together.
Go ahead.
My name is Ralph Himelick. My wife and I had Sanders Jewelers downtown here, and prior to that in Richmond. This would be his 81st year, actually. And Vivian had served, I think, quite well in county council. And while I don't expect to simply step into her place, I would like to have the opportunity to do some of the things that she's done to help the county. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Riker-Peyton, incumbent, and I have a degree in business. I'm a professional grant writer, lifetime member here in the community, and I have a son in med school here. Or not here, but a son in med school at IU.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. The procedure we're going to follow this night, tonight, so everyone knows, is we have 5 questions for 5 candidates, so it works out pretty well. We'll start in the order that I originally have the candidates listed, which is in alphabetical order. And so, Mr. Bevington, you're going to go first on this first question, and then Ms. Durham, you'll go second, Mr. Himelick third, Mr. Nobbe fourth, and Ms. Riker-Peyton, you'll go fifth on this question. And then basically what we will do is rotate. So on the second question, Ms. Durham will go first, and Mr. Bevington will go last, and you will all kind of stay in your sequence. So we'll just shift you up. So that way everybody basically gets to be first, second, third, fourth, and fifth on one question for the 5. Yes, the math works out pretty well. Starting with you, Mr. Bevington, question number 1. And just so it's clear, none of these questions were given to any of the candidates prior to us meeting here, so this is all pretty much, I'm just asking these questions straight and cold. Question 1, and everyone has 4 minutes to answer each question, okay? You guys good with the rules? We set? Okay. Mr. Bevington, question number 1. Do you, excuse me, let me just make sure I got, okay, yes. Do you support the establishment of any additional tax increment financing districts in the county, recognizing that the county won't directly benefit from future property tax gains within the district, what steps, so it's kind of a two-part question. The first part, do you support the establishment? And then second, recognizing the county won't directly benefit from future property tax gains within the district, what steps would you take to ensure that the project still contributes to the county's long-term economic plan? That's a mouthful, but it's a two-part question.
Yeah. Well, I used to be the economic development director here in the mid-90s, and back then I introduced tax increment financing as a possible economic development tool. I believe it's a good economic development tool when it's used responsibly, but I think people need to better understand what it is. And tax increment financing is where the Redevelopment Commission creates an area, and the parcels inside that area create a certain amount of revenue. That revenue is, for lack of a better term, frozen at a certain point. And any revenue generated from those parcels above and beyond that can be captured for the Redevelopment Commission for reinvestment inside that tax increment financing district. Now, they can pass it along to the other entities like normal, the library, the townships, the county, the schools, but they don't have to. There is some subjectivity to that. And the Redevelopment Commission has 5 members, 2 of which come from the Connersville City Council. 3 serve at the pleasure of the mayor. So in essence, the majority of the Redevelopment Commission is controlled by whoever the mayor is. And you know, I want to refer to some of my notes on TIF because I thought this might come up. At the end of 22, the city's Redevelopment Commission passed a massive TIF district whose parcels equated to nearly 45% of our non-residential revenue stream. And in my view, that was completely irresponsible. Working together with the local school corporation and the library, we sent a joint letter to the city and RDC pointing out some things that they had done wrong over the previous 3 years and reiterated our opposition to the TIF. Well, thankfully, they pulled back and rescinded the TIF. But we knew the city would come back with another TIF, and we were trying to work with some of the redevelopment commissioners to try to come up with a more amenable proposal. The city did come back in October of 2023 with a TIF, a new TIF, but this one was about half the size of the original. So while that's great, it still consists of nearly 23% of our non-residential revenue stream, and that's still too big. So it's unclear to me at this moment what the actual impact will be on the county's finances. So much of what we talk about here will be preliminary. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, Ms. Durham, same question to you. I'll go ahead and ask for every one of you. I'll ask the question again every time, just so you're clear on what it is. Question 1 again. Do you support the establishment of another or any tax increment financing district in the county? That's part 1. Part 2, recognizing that the county won't directly benefit from future property tax gains within the district, what steps will you take to ensure that the project still contributes to the county's long-term economic plan?
Well, first of all, I did serve 2 terms on City Council. I helped place a person on the Redevelopment Commission, or board. And as far as being privy to recent activity, I have not been. I guess my stance would be everyone who pays taxes would like for the tax to benefit us, our county, our city. I'd have to agree, and I want to appreciate Scott defining that, because I'm all about letting people, educate the people on what we are talking about and help them to understand what we talk about. And so I would have to agree that it sounded like it was a little too large. And so I look forward to hopefully working with the county in conjunction with the city. And I think that's pretty important on these kind of matters. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Himelick,
Yes.
same question to you. Do you support the establishment of another tax increment finance district in the county? Again, that's part one, recognizing that the county won't directly benefit from future property tax gains within the district. What steps will you take to ensure that the project still contributes to the county's long-term economic plan?
First, the answer would be to question severely the wisdom of the concept. Tax instrument financing works very, very well in a rising economy because you create an entity, you buy an old building, you restore it, someone buys that, starts an enterprise, the economy is rising, incomes are increasing, property taxes are increasing, that's the tax increment, increasing property revenues. Now, all that works very well on the way up. Bills are paid, the people who started the new business are generating income, the bond that was floated to start the TIF is being paid off, so you're making money from that. Eventually, the increase does float all boats, so to speak. But we're not going into necessarily an improving economy around our nation or around the world. If we have what I fear, which is a level or falling economy, then you're fighting both the slightly hesitant enterprise of the TIF if things don't work out properly, and also a increasing fight to fight a possibly declining economy. I fear that our economy is almost circling the bowl as we speak right now. I think it's a great idea if everything works.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Nobbe, you are next on this question. Again, I'll ask it for you. Do you support the establishment of another tax increment financing district in the county? Part one, recognizing that the county won't directly benefit from future property tax gains within the district, what steps would you take to ensure that the project still contributes to the county's long-term economic plan?
Well, first, we're looking at a 4-year term, so in 4 years, I don't know that we could realize the true potential gains from the current TIF district that we have in place currently. So at this juncture, I don't think I would support an additional TIF district being added. I do think they have a great place, and they do have some ways you can leverage some tax revenue that will allow some redevelopment of some areas that Connersville could definitely, and Fayette County could definitely benefit from. As far as steps I would take, you know, that's really a decision that's not in the county council's hand, but we do have influence, and we can talk with the folks that are making those decisions on the city council and the mayor's office to help mitigate any kind of problems that might cause county, and also to help realize any future gains.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Ms. Riker-Peyton, you are last on this question. And again, I'll ask it for you like I have with the others. Do you support the establishment of another tax increment financing district in the county? Part one, recognizing that the county won't directly benefit from future property tax gains within the district, what steps would you take to ensure that the project still contributes to the county's long-term economic plan?
Well, TIF is a good tool when it's used correctly. The most recent one that was done by the city, the county had no vote in it, which that's a legislative statute that they have to go by. Unfortunately, the county is not allowed to vote. They should be allowed to vote, but the city went ahead and passed it. I wasn't for it, but like I said, the county had no say in it. As far as long-term effects, it will take a while to see how it's going to affect us. And like Gabe alluded to, it's not in our scope of work, but we can advocate for things. And I would say that our EDG folks would need to probably step up their game for the county and see some business pop up out in the county to help us.
Okay, that's all for question one. And like I said previously, with each question we're going to rotate. So, Ms. Durham, you will go first on this question. Question number two. Fayette County already has one of the highest local income tax rates in the state at 2.57%. Given that the average income in the county is just under $25,000, how will you ensure an additional public safety lit local income tax does not further impoverish the local community? Can you outline a strategy that balances the need for improved public safety services with the financial realities of our residents? That's the question.
Okay, well, I did attend the recent meeting, and of course, getting in at the 11th hour, if you will. It was an interesting meeting. It did come up to, I think, 1/4%, which someone alluded to the fact that it was like 34 cents a day. Maybe $5 a pay period for some people, which I know that doesn't seem to be too much. There was interaction at that meeting about public service, the services provided to the public. And I had an opinion on that a lot of the residents believe that those services are just a given, that they're not per se amenities. However, we do need to keep up with technology. There was talk about new equipment being ordered. There was a substantial price increase in the fire truck, ambulances that were being ordered, and all the equipment that they have to use. We saw that on City Council. That is just very expensive to keep up with today. And everybody wants that if they need it. So it appears to me that it will pass. I think it's like everything else. When our trash services incrementally went up, it's a hard pill to swallow, but I think over time it'll be okay. It's a 0.25%.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Himelick, you're next on this question. And again, I'll ask it for you. Question 2. Fayette County already has one of the highest local income tax rates in the state at 2.57%. Given that the average income in the county is just under $25,000, how will you ensure an additional public safety local income tax does not further impoverish the local community? Can you outline a strategy that balances the need for improved public safety services with the financial realities of our residents?
It's almost oxymoronic to say, yes, we can do all of that in one effort or one question. You need a rising economy of some kind to support rising taxes. And our best years, realistically, were in the industrial era when, that effort did float all boats, so to speak. And I think that we can just automatically recreate something like that? No, of course not. But the whole concept of economic development has to include more than just increasing tax-applied payouts to a narrow population. Now, I don't have the answer to that, but you have to do something to raise the business climate, raise the economic climate, improve employment. Think about all the things that we've lost over the years. Most of it revolves around employment and large businesses operating within the county. If we could go back to the time of the big automotive companies, we wouldn't even have this conversation. They'd be building new communities to hire new employees. So we're going to have to do something, let's say, between the TIF and the new economy to create an economy that will support what you want.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nobbe, you're next on this one. And again, I'll ask it. Question 2. Fayette County already has one of the highest local income tax rates in the state at 2.57%. Given that the average income in the county is just under $25,000, how will you ensure an additional public safety local income tax does not further impoverish the local community? Can you outline a strategy that balances the need for improved public safety services with the financial realities of our residents?
Well, when I was on city council, a few years back, this issue came about, and during that time, I was highly opposed to it. Didn't think we needed a need for it. I thought we were at a point where we could still look at maybe getting rid of some unnecessary necessary areas and try to tighten our belts a little better to really get that, so we didn't have to get to that point. We are quickly approaching an era where the belts have been tightened, we've trimmed all the fat, and we're in really tight positions. So when we look at those taxes, it makes it very challenging. To answer your question in a nutshell, I don't know that you can raise taxes without impoverishing people more. That's just simply, they don't work together. But what we can do, and I'm not sure my exact position on this, is if this were to be passed, we can do things for our residents that uses our influence. Right now, the state is electing new governor. We're going to elect some new senators, new representatives, and some of those folks are talking about reducing property taxes, even eliminating those for some elderly folks. And as a county council person, I think we could use our position to help leverage those issues at the state and maybe even testify on behalf of our residents. So to answer the question, I'm not clearly defining my position on that tax increase yet, but I see a need for it, and I also see the challenges that it would bring to our residents. So it's a very, very tough position for everyone.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Riker-Peyton, you are next on this question. And again, I'll ask it for you. Question 2. Fayette County already has one of the highest local income tax rates in the state at 2.57%. Given that the average income in the county is just under $25,000, how will you ensure an additional public safety local income tax does not further impoverish the local community? Can you outline a strategy that balances the need for improved public safety services with the financial realities of our residents?
Well, to answer your question correctly, we'd have to sit here for about 2 weeks and talk about this, because it's way deeper than people understand, and the state statutes and the legislative code that we have to follow is so outdated. It doesn't match when it was written and how it is now. It doesn't match what society is now. So with this recent joint meeting that we had, the way this particular tax levy works, the city has more population, so they're going to get more votes. So regardless of what we say, they can implement it. And I do think that that we have to advocate to the state and tell them, look, you're drowning us down here. You're killing us. You've got to change some things in the state statutes. These state mandates that they're putting down, we can't. They work in big cities, but they don't work in small rural communities like this. They don't. And the only plus thing that we have is that Connersville does have a very low cost of living. That's the one plus that we have. And I do believe that the city is hemorrhaging for their first responders, and those issues. It's definitely a safety issue. And I do believe that come this summer, we're going to see that our budget is going to be hemorrhaging as well. But it's my understanding that it's really going to be decided by the city. But in the future going forward, I would love to see these types of things put on the ballot so the public can vote on them. So.
Thank you. And Mr. Bevington, you are last on this question, this go round. I'll ask it again. Fayette County already has one of the highest local income tax rates in the state at 2.57%. Given that the average income in the county is just under $25,000, how will you ensure an additional public safety local income tax does not further impoverish the local community? Can you outline a strategy that balances the need for improved public safety services with the financial realities of our residents?
Sure. Well, we already have the 12th highest income tax rate in Indiana. 12th. It looks like the city's going to pass this local income tax increase. That'll make us the 4th highest. The amount of money per household sounds small, but I really think we ought to do the math. The average household income in Fayette County is about $48,101. Let's pull out the income taxes that already exist from that and divide it by 12 months and 22 work days a month. If it's going to cost us like an extra $125 a household, which is what they said the other night, that equates to about almost a whole day's take-home pay for the average citizen in Fayette County. Now, I know it was to go, and that's just for the increase now. They talked about using this to help the salaries of first responders. And I think that's great. You know, my wife and I have 4 kids, and one of our boys is a deputy down in Franklin County. And he got shot at. He's got a beautiful wife and 2 gorgeous little girls. And I can't imagine what our family would be like without him. My sister, several years ago, was nearly a victim of gun violence, and had a Cincinnati police officer not been there, we would have lost her. I know more than most about what those families go through in hoping that their loved one comes home after work. I want our first responders to be paid well. They need to be well compensated for that, right? But we also have a responsibility to the taxpayers, that they get to keep as much of their money as possible. And so what I've been calling for, and I guess I'm going to get a little bit more verbal about it, because I've tried to handle this, behind the scenes. But I've called on the commissioners and the city council and the, you okay, Ralph? You're okay. The city council and the mayor to sit down with us and open up interlocal agreements that are almost 2 decades old. There's some inequities there. And perhaps if we sit down and do the work, we might be able to find money that we can use other places by figuring out we can do things more efficiently. And, it's easy. I heard a lot of the city council people say, it's hard to raise taxes. No, it's pretty easy. The hard stuff is actually doing the work that we need to do to work together better and make our government services more efficient for the whole community.
Thank you. Okay, this next question, Mr. Himelick is actually first, but I believe he stepped out for a second.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you guys are okay? We just move him to the end?
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then Mr. Nobbe, you would be next on this question. Question 3. It's kind of along somewhat similar lines as the second question. They all kind of build on each other. Given that the average county employee income is near poverty levels, with many relying on assistance programs like heating assistance, housing, and SNAP benefits, what steps would you take to address employee compensation and ensure that those who serve our community can afford basic living expenses? For example, would you consider measures like a living wage ordinance, increased compensation, or expanded benefits packages? That's the question.
All right. Big question. This is a tough question. It really is. And it's one that's kind of near and dear to my heart. My mother-in-law worked for the county government for years in the prosecutor's office, and that is not a livable wage, that's for sure. So how would we address that? I don't think I would not support a living wage ordinance, but I would look to find ways to increase the salaries of those folks that are in the courthouse and do the work that is so necessary. And we have to do that by, finding every possibility for new revenue to trim any places that we can trim that are left, and hopefully building the economy up. Because if we get the economy picks up around here and people move in, then our tax income for the county would go up. So that's the best way to do it, and that's how I would recommend we do that at this point.
Mr. Himelick, do you think you're ready to answer this question? Okay.
My apologies.
No, that's okay. I get the coughs too sometimes. Okay, so you had stepped out, but again, I always repeat the questions for everyone. So, Mr. Himelick, the question is, given that the average county employee income is near poverty levels, with many relying on assistance programs like heating assistance, housing, and SNAP benefits, what steps would you take to address employee compensation and ensure that those who serve our community can afford basic living expenses? For example, would you consider measures like a living wage ordinance, increased compensation, or expanded benefits packages? That's the question.
My problem with a living wage ordinance is that assumes a variable that cannot move, and yet the lives of people are moving. I think if you can do something that will improve the economy overall, and this is the golden goose that everybody's looking for, we're comparing what we're doing right now with what we used to have in great plenitude, which was employment. Employment was the golden goose that gave everybody amazing incomes throughout the community and supported most of the businesses in the community. If you keep taking from that public coffer and say, okay, let's have a tax increase. So we put through a tax increase to increase payouts to a certain group of the community, and where does that tax increase keep coming from? Maybe we should ask those people from whom we are taking the tax increase what they feel about it. I don't have an absolute answer. I think that we have created a population that has been told it cannot succeed, and therefore it does not. We've created a population that, by our own foolishness, cannot succeed because we are giving them only the tools to fail. We put people in housing affairs that they probably cannot afford, and we turn an old hotel into a drug palace. So I don't have an absolute answer. I think it's going to include education, changing in social mores. Like I say, we have a huge population that survives on the federal and the state government as it is. Until we can break that cycle, all of these other ideas, which sound so great, are only going to contribute to the problem. I'm sorry, I can't just say, okay, we'll do this and fix that. It's not going to work that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Ms. Riker-Peyton, this question now goes to you. Given that the average county employee income is near poverty levels, with many relying on assistance programs like heating assistance, housing, and SNAP benefits, what steps would you take to address employee compensation and ensure that those who serve our community can afford basic living expenses? For example, would you consider measures like a living wage ordinance, increased compensation, or expanded benefits packages?
Well, this is a very deep subject. We already know that from last year's budgets that we couldn't afford things. I mean, we need, well, first of all, I think everyone needs to understand exactly what council's scope of work is and what commissioner's scope of work is. So if anyone out there wants the copy, I have it, reach out to me. I'll be glad to give it to you, because the scope of our work, I think, is misunderstood, as well as I think it's misunderstood as far as what commissioners do. But I think that we need the state to step in and do some relief, because we're like tapped out. We're just at the bottom of the barrel. So how can we give money? I know they make crappy wages. How can we give them money when we don't have? How can you give something away you don't have? The only thing I can think of is that I think maybe the EDG that we share, I think maybe they need to change their process and how they do things. I'd like to see more like a performance review of the EDD director, more reports, more feedback, what's going on, like how many leads he has, what he's working on. So we're in the know of what he's doing, and he's held more accountable to what he's been working on, since the county's paying half of the wage. Because it's EDG's job to go bring new business in here. And we can't keep going the way we're going. And in the past, I've given some great ideas to council to stop some of the waste that we have, and it fell on deaf ears. I've given different people in different positions some different grant opportunities, that I advised them to take and try to apply for that, and they didn't. So I'm just saying that it's a huge conundrum, so to speak, but I think that we need to change the process on EDG.
Thank you. Mr. Bevington, this question now goes to you. And again, I'll ask it for you. Given that the average county employee income is near poverty levels, with many relying on assistance programs like heating assistance, housing, and SNAP benefits, what steps would you take to address employee compensation and ensure that those who serve our community can afford basic living expenses? For example, would you consider measures like a living wage ordinance, increased compensation, or expanded benefits packages?
Well, I have a little different take on this. Employee salary increases must be sustainable. That's the key thing there. In 2 of the last 4 years, we have offered salary increases. And in the 2 years we didn't, we gave bonuses. Admittedly, the pay isn't the greatest, but government jobs never are. Usually you hope the benefits are good, and I think ours are competitive at least. In terms of pay, if you look at communities comparable to us, and I usually look at Lawrence and Scott and Jay counties, we may not exceed them, but we're in the ballpark. As far as EDG goes and reports, that's really a county commissioner role. And because the county commissioners are the executive and legislative body of county government, they're the ones who oversee the day-to-day operations. So, and it's my understanding from that EDG offers the commissioners reports on a regular basis. Now, I'm also proud of EDG. I used to be the economic development director here a long time ago, and when I first got on the board in 2022, I took 6 months to see what the lay of the land looked like, and about 6 months into it, I went to Director Parker and I said, I think there's 3 or 4 things we could improve here. And to his credit, he asked me if I wanted to talk to the board, and I did. And we're under a very necessary non-disclosure agreement. So there's not a whole lot I can talk about in detail, but one of the things that I was concerned about, I wanted the mayor's office and EDG to work better together. And it's already begun to pay off, because EDG's work on the NOVA project was just critical. And, when that payroll's up and running at full bore in 2026, that payroll alone is going to be about $4 million more than we've ever spent on economic development in 35 years. As far as grants go, I used to be the auditor of a federal grant program for the state. And I was part of the team that created a grant administration certification program. We knew who the good administrators were and who they weren't, and who we needed to watch. And based on everything I've seen, our grant administrator, Jaleesa Bates, does one heck of a job. So I really think she can do her job very well on her own without interference from us. So, I mean, our job is to craft a county budget. One of the things that I called for in the September 5th budget hearing was to end an expensive political perk that goes on where county council has access to full-time health insurance benefits. I thought we could use that money to help fully staff our 911. And if you didn't want to do that, then how about our probation department? They've got 94 cases per person on average. So I think there is some things we can fix that will help us in the long run as far as pay and making the services more efficient. But sometimes we have to have the political will to do it.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Durham, you are last on this question. I'll ask it again. Given that the average county employee income is near poverty levels, with many relying on assistance programs like eating assistance, housing, and SNAP benefits, what steps would you take to address employee compensation and ensure that those who serve our community can afford basic living expenses? For example, would you consider measures like a living wage ordinance, increased compensation, or expanded benefits packages?
Okay, so I guess it's no secret that that there's pretty low wages involved. My history is my mother worked in the courthouse more than 45 years ago. I grew up in the auditor's office where she worked. And I guess I'm kind of tunneling there. But I remember actually quite a few employees in that office. And they each had certain jobs and tasks that they did. I'd have to think, and I'm obviously not privy to what actually goes on in each office and what the budget is per se. But I think maybe looking at the offices and making sure that we're taking advantage of all technology and maybe streamlining. And I don't want to come off of saying I think that people should lose their jobs, but with saying that, benefits like the health insurance are it's a very costly budget item, and the people that actually are employed at the courthouse, they need to have those, and that may be why they're working, because in today's society, the job, like my dad worked at D&M, and so my mom didn't need the health insurance. But in today's society, most employers don't offer the spouse coverage if they have it offered to them. So the woman in the household who works has to get her own insurance. So those benefits they need to be where they're at. I think that's important. And I think that I'm sure that the current council commissioners are looking and doing their due diligence and micromanaging the budget and trying to find ways to cut. And I'm looking forward to trying to seeing what's going on there and helping out any way I can.
Thank you. Okay, now we're to question 4. Mr. Nobbe, you went first last time, but technically this is your question to actually go first, unless you and Mr. Himelick want to swap here. Okay, we'll start with you actually then. And Mr. Himelick, you'll actually go last on this question. So Mr. Nobbe, during last year's budget meeting, a stipend in lieu of insurance was discussed and modified. The matter of health insurance was also brought up at the same time. What are your feelings on health insurance being offered to members of the county council and the county commissioners when other county employees that work many more hours are not even entitled to it?
That's a great question. As we look at the health insurance for county council and county commissioners, that is something I've been opposed to dating back to my time on city council. I think it's an enormous expense that the county provides, but I don't think that it necessarily has to do so. When Connie and I both served at the city council at the same time, and on the city council, you were offered to take insurance. If you had won it, you just had to pay for all of it, since you're considered a full-time employee. So I think we should be able to offer that. If those council members and commissioners would like to pay 100% of that, that sounds fine to me. But I don't think the county council or the county commissioners or the county budget should fund any insurance for the public officials.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Riker-Peyton, you are next on this question. I'll ask it again. Excuse me. During last year's budget meeting, a stipend in lieu of insurance was discussed and modified. The matter of health insurance was also brought up at the same time. What are your feelings on health insurance being offered to members of the county council and the county commissioners when other county employees that work many more hours are not even entitled to it?
Well, if it would be legal to not offer health insurance to new people going forward, yeah, I would be in favor of not offering it going forward so we could save some money. And I would like to do away with the stipend in lieu of insurance this coming year. And that would be another savings that we could have.
Okay. Mr. Bevington, you're next. And again, I'll ask the question. During last year's budget meeting, a stipend in lieu of insurance was discussed and modified. The matter of health insurance was also brought up at the same time. What are your feelings on health insurance being offered to members of the county council and the county commissioners when other county employees that work many more hours are not even entitled to it?
Well, I'm on record as absolutely opposing that policy. And on September 5th, 2023, I made a motion during the budget hearing to eliminate that perk and use the money to fully staff our 911. You know, if you do the math, I recently realized that I had underestimated the amount of money the county spends on one individual insurance policy. I thought it was around $9,000. It's actually closer to $11,000 per person for an individual policy. So just using my $9,000 number for the sake of argument, if someone wanted a single policy, it's about $9,000. If they wanted a family policy, that's closer to $27,000. Based on the $9,000 number, it's actually higher than that. So if you multiply that by 7 people over a 4-year term, that's anywhere from $250,000 to $750,000. Now don't get me wrong, full-time health insurance benefits are key for full-time elected officials like the county recorder and the county clerk and the county treasurer. You got to have that. But county council's different. This doesn't require 33.5 hours a week to do. Us being eligible and the tax dollars going for this kind of thing, you know, I had a guy that I was talking to who said that's close to being theft. And I would pretty well agree. As far as the stipend goes, yeah, it's a little cheaper than paying for someone's insurance, but not a lot. And my thing about the stipend was I just wanted to make sure the stipend was to be given in lieu of taking the county insurance to help pay for Medicare supplements. But they didn't have to document that they actually had the Medicare supplements. They could just pocket the money. And this actually came up in 2022, and I was the only one to vote against the ordinance based on that. So we finally got the stipend thing fixed, but we still have some work to do to get rid of this proposal. And I want to make sure everybody understands, the state does not mandate this for us. It is a local decision that is with the commissioners. Now, the only way the council can affect policy is to reduce or eliminate monies that are offered, or excuse me, monies that are requested by other county office holders or department heads. We can't add something that hasn't been requested. That's just not legal. So that's our way to affect policy, and my proposal was to reduce it in an amount that equated to what was being spent on the county council currently. And that would have paid for an operator on 911. So, but in that proposal, it didn't get a second and the motion died.
Thank you. Ms. Durham, you're next. I'll ask the question again. During last year's budget meeting, a stipend in lieu of insurance was discussed and modified. The matter of health insurance was also brought up at the same time. What are your feelings on health insurance being offered to members of the county council and the county commissioners when other county employees that work many more hours are not even entitled to it?
Okay, so if I was to get elected, I would not be taking the insurance. I didn't take it when I was on city council. I have a full-time job, blessed with benefits that are very costly. And the older I get, I appreciate them more. Whereas I don't feel like this would not be a full-time job. And whereas I appreciate and I feel the responsibilities are very important, it is not a full-time job. So I do think that part-time employees should have access to those, but not council.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Himelick, you are last on this question. During last year's budget meeting, a stipend in lieu of insurance was discussed and modified. The matter of health insurance was also brought up at the same time. What are your feelings on health insurance being offered to members of the county council and the county commissioners when other county employees that work many more hours are not even entitled to it?
Most of my knowledge is what I've heard here. I would have to agree with the lady two down here. We have to be very careful how much money we spend, and understanding that health insurance is not only an unusually good benefit, but it's also one of the most expensive things you can possibly do. I'd bring a personal note in. When my wife passed away, regrettably, the only way of getting her to the slightest iota of possibility of life was a helicopter. Thank heaven for her prescience in having bought that insurance many years ago. Or that, well, we'd have made the flight, but we'd still be shoveling to get out of that hole. I have a very strong conundrum about this, and the difficulty is saying, well, to whom is it fair to provide insurance, and to whom is it fair to deny insurance? And I don't think we're going to be able to answer that here tonight. The conundrum of the expense of the city and county in providing insurance is never going to be answered adequately because it's simply going to be a matter of negotiation. I would love to be able to say, okay, yeah, as a perk for your holding council, whatever public job, we're going to give you a break on insurance. I don't know if that is possible. I haven't researched that. If there is a possibility of something between the two extremes, of having no insurance and perhaps having an employee contribute to an insurance policy, that might be a possibility. I have a real quandary on saying just blanket will provide insurance.
Okay, and that's the last for that question. So we have one more question for the five of you. Ms. Riker-Peyton, you'll start this time, and Mr. Nobbe, you will be last this time. Ms. Riker-Peyton, question number 5, and the last question is, as has been mentioned in previous meetings, there are some items within the jail that need to be addressed. For instance, maintenance, renovation, various upgrades. How would you propose that those problems be addressed and obviously for the council's purposes funded?
Can you say it again, please?
Yes. As has been mentioned in previous meetings, there are some items within the jail that need to be addressed, such as maintenance, renovation, and various upgrades. How do you propose that those problems be addressed? And again, since you all are running for council, and funded. Obviously, the funded is the more important part.
Well, as far as what's going to be worked on, that's a commissioner deal. We've got some money set back from the ARPA funds to pay for some of the maintenance that's coming up. We've got that money set aside already. So I'm not for sure. Maybe you're misled or something, but we do have money to fix the issues in the jail set aside. But again, we'll approve the payment, but the commissioners will tell them what work they need to work on.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Bevington, you're next on this question. As has been mentioned in previous meetings, there are some items within the jail that need to be addressed, maintenance, renovation, various upgrades. How do you propose those problems be addressed and funded?
Well, to me, the biggest problem we have in the jail is jail overcrowding. And the women's work release facility that is being constructed now will do a great deal to take a huge bite out of our jail overcrowding problem. Our jail maximum is about 114, but we've been averaging around 140. So the idea of moving the ladies into their own facility opens up a whole new cell block and helps relieve a dangerous situation. And the way we're doing it through the John Clark plan, which will require a lot of discipline on the council's part to make sure that we're running it appropriately. Doing that, the way we're doing it, we're not going to be adding a dime's worth of debt to the people of Fayette County. And that's huge. I think what Ms. Peyton was referring to was the air handling system in the jail. And there is money set aside for that as part of that project. There was also money set aside to handle the control panel a little differently, so we wouldn't need 15 employees. We'd only need 10. And that's really what sparked John Clark's idea in how we would finance running it. And I'm really proud of John and what he did, and along with Kayla Nobbe. John and Kayla and I worked together with a lot of folks to get that package put together, and we were able to finally move on it. You know, for the first 6 months I was on council, we really didn't talk much about it. And when we did talk about it, we were pretty much yelling at each other. I specifically remember a rather heated conversation between Councilman Stewart and myself. But that's when I thought, this isn't good for anybody. So I went to Commissioner Strong, who has always been a proponent of it. And I said, look, here's my problems with it. This, and this. What do you think? I don't know if we can get around it, but let's see. And so we were able to work through a couple of issues, and by the time John and Kayla came along, we were all on the same page, and we got it working. There are other issues at the jail. It was not constructed terribly well. And so we still have lots of issues. But again, I hope that we can work together with the city to work on those interlocal agreements and perhaps find a way to make everything more efficient for both of us.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Durham, you are next, and I'll ask the question again. As has been mentioned in previous meetings, there are some items within the jail that need to be addressed, such as maintenance, renovation, and various upgrades. How do you propose that those problems be addressed and funded?
Well, without being privy to that major department within the county's actual budget of what comes in and what actually goes out, which I know we are overcrowded, so I'm sure there's not a whole lot of money. I think maybe something should be looked at to kind of copy the city's idea of maybe a non-reverting fund setting back some sort of percentage to help each department take care of itself in the future. So I look forward to thinking about that and working on that.
Okay. And I think Mr. Himelick stepped out again. He's coughing. Are you okay with going, Mr. Nobbe? Okay. So, Mr. Nobbe, I'll ask you this question. As has been mentioned in previous meetings, there are some items within the jail that need to be addressed, such as maintenance, renovation, and various upgrades. How do you propose that those problems be addressed and funded?
Well, after listening to the folks here, it sounds like some of the major issues are taken care of, but we all know that there are many more things that need to be done. So my biggest thing when we do any kind of budgeting, which is the primary focus of county council, is to make sure you set up a situation where you create funds that you simply put small amounts of money in to take care of those large problems as they go along. So we're not having to constantly put out these major fires. So with the major things taken care of, I think as we go and look at the future budgets, we have to be conscientious of how much money we're putting in those funds and make sure that they're non-reverting so that they don't go back to the county coffers and we spend them other places. They need to be set aside for those specific purposes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Himelick, you stepped out, but you're back now, so I'm going to ask you this question. Were you okay? You ready to go? Okay.
I'm good. My apologies.
No, that's okay. Okay, last question. As has been mentioned in previous meetings, there are some items within the jail that need to be addressed, such as maintenance, renovation, and various upgrades. How do you propose that those problems be addressed and funded?
The funding will certainly be a conundrum, but addressing it would, and I may be repeating something, I apologize for that. Some of my wife's friends got up on the jail building when this was bubbling up about a year and a half ago, and the air handlers were so completely blocked with debris and crud, light would not pass through the air handlers. The filters were filled with debris. A sparrow couldn't get through the darn things. They had obviously not been cleaned maybe for a decade. Several of them had lubrication problems in the air circulating fans themselves. And we understood in talking to some of the officers that the temperature control, not only in the prisoner area of the jail, but where the officers themselves had to work, was pretty horrid. It was like a refrigerator in the winter and a blast furnace in the summer. And several of the people to whom we spoke felt that if proper service had been done to these air handlers on a rotating basis, at least part of those problems could have been solved. If you're moving that volume of air in a building that size, it doesn't take a great amount of reduction in the diameter of the ductwork, which was being reduced because of buildup of debris, to not only reduce the flow of air, but reduce the temperature change of air and increases the electrical draw on all those high capacity motors. I don't know if those are 3-phase motors, but they're at least, I think they're 240s. So just starting one of those motors is a huge electrical load. And I'm sure if you could put an ammeter on that and watch the scale, it'd peg that every time it was trying to start. And it's probably a small miracle that one of those motors didn't catch fire, because when you hit the armature on that motor with an electrical jolt, it's trying to pick that up from 0 to maybe whatever the rotating speed is, 200-300 RPM, and turning a heavy squirrel cage device. Now, all of that is magnified in terms of detriment by the fact that it's also carrying around a huge load of debris, which not only increases the load against the bearings in the motors, but it also creates a continuing load. It not only takes a huge amount of energy to start it, but it doesn't even slack off very much as it tapers down and gets the motor up to speed. So I'm not trying to belabor the point, but there has to be a trade-off between spending new money on new projects and putting a good maintenance program in that would keep the darn things clean. Every single area of that jail needed to be, or the air circulating system needed to be cleaned on a more frequent basis. And I think that may not be the end-all be-all, but I think things like that were so obvious that just, Viv said, just walking by, you could see the debris falling down out of these devices. So I think some kind of a maintenance program at least would be essential, and probably would be essential to a new system as well.
Okay, thank you, sir. That ends our county council portion of the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen here, and ladies and gentlemen in the audience, stay tuned. We will have county commission race, District 2 and District 3 coming up. I think, just real quick, did you guys maybe want to do like quick closing statements? Okay. Let's start on this end this time. So, Ms. Riker-Peyton, if you want to start, and then we'll just go this way.
Okay, well, first of all, I just want to say I'm here to tell the truth. I always tell the facts the way they are, and we didn't get this, county didn't get in this situation overnight. It's been decades of neglect, and it can't be fixed overnight either. But experience and dedication. I'm 100% dedicated to this job, and I spend a lot of time on this job. I go to the extra classes that they offer out of my own pocket. I go to legislative conferences, district meetings. I go above and beyond because I love doing this work, and I love representing the taxpayer, because I do my best and my hardest there is possible. So again, experience and dedication really does matter. I know that budget like the back of my hand. If anyone has any questions, please reach out to me. I'd be I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. But I would appreciate your support on May 7th. And again, my name's Kay Riker-Peyton, and my motto is people before politics. Thank you.
Mr. Himelick, do you have a closing statement you'd like to make?
Yeah, in part, and this is a little bit outside of politics, very political, I actually got into this because I was interested in helping the people of the county, and I saw the great benefit that I thought my wife Vivian was doing as she worked in this position. Had an amazing mind and could just pick up on new ideas in a heartbeat. So I would like to try to take over, work in her place, so to speak, and put at least, well, I was going to say put at least the energy that Vivian has, but no one has that energy. So I will say I will try to come as close as I can to her energy and her willingness to work, and that's what I'll be doing.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bevington.
Anyone who knows me well knows that a lot of my upbringing was because of my maternal grandparents. And they were part of the greatest generation. They went through the Depression, World War II. They raised their families in a really weird time in the 60s. And they left us with a really nice community that's really struggled over the last 40 years. I'm in the fight because I'd like to honor them. And I'm in the fight for my peers, the people that stayed here or came back here to raise their families. I never want those decisions to be in vain. And I'm in the fight because of our kids and those peers' kids. We've got 4 kids, and 2 of them we're lucky enough to still have 2 of them that still live here, and all 3 grandchildren for now. I never want them to feel like they have to leave to have a better life. So for those reasons, that's why I'm in this. And unfortunately, I felt like the people of Fayette County's best interests needed to be protected over the last 4 years. It's really been kind of surprising. So, you know, in my job, I work as a fiduciary, and that's just a legal term for I'm legally obligated to do what I think is in my client's best interest, not mine. That's the way public servants should be. And that's what I'll be to the people of Fayette County if they're kind enough to return me to the courthouse. I'd appreciate your support on May 7th, and thank you all again for helping put this together.
Ms. Durham?
Well, I just want to applaud all 5 of us for stepping out of the box and trying to serve the residents of Fayette County. It's not for everyone. Like the saying goes, if you don't speak up, you don't have a right to speak out. So just want to remind people that whereas this is not a full-time job necessarily, it does infringe upon personal time. So, you know, you give up a lot to serve. Whereas I like to talk a lot, I have learned in the city council role to listen a lot, and I enjoyed that. But I look forward to being elected, and I appreciate your support. And thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Nobbe, you're last.
First off, I want to thank everybody for giving their time tonight to put this on. It's really great for our citizens to be able to see, you know, our different views and how we view things differently. So I just want to thank everybody for that. And you know, if I were elected, I would bring to the table some expertises in budgeting. I was on the city council. I was the chairperson for the budgeting committee a number of years, and during that time we had some really, really tough budgets, and we were in really, really tough financial times. And by the time I left, we were in better times, not great, but better times. So I've been through that. I teach budgeting classes in my role at the high school, and we've even taught, my wife and I have taught them in the community. So budgets, one of the primary concerns of county council, is something I'm very familiar with. I also have a relationship with many of the folks that are elected, not only on the county council, the city council, mayor's office, the commissioners, and I think we need to leverage those as we go forward. And if I were elected, I absolutely would do so. So if the voters of Fayette County think that I'm a guy that suits their needs, please vote for me. If I'm not, that's okay. You can vote for somebody else. All right. Thank you for your time.
And since we're all thanking everyone, yes, thank everyone here, and thank you all, the 5 of you, for your time. Again, this ends the county council portion of our primary election debate. Again, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for District 2 and District 3 county commission races. Hopefully to follow quickly. welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are now going to conduct the primary election debate for County Commission District 3. Again, the election for the primary is Tuesday, May 7th. And we have our three candidates here, Jim Wulff, Tracie Bever, and Daniel Chambers. And the way we're going to do this one, this is going to be a little different from the county council race. What we're going to do is these candidates are going to have 6 questions, and we're going to rotate them like we did with the county council candidates. So each candidate will get to be first twice, second twice, and third twice on the questions. And so whoever goes first, which I'm going to go in alphabetical order the first time, so Ms. Beaver, you're going to start first on the first question. When you answer the question, you'll move to third, and everybody else will shift up, and we'll just keep that rotation. Okay, that makes sense to everybody? And again, there's 6 questions. Some of the questions are a little similar, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, to the county council questions, but there's also quite a few that are going to be different. So if you all are ready to begin, we'll just get started, okay? And just so you all are aware, we do have a timekeeper. You have 4 minutes per question. So when I ask a question, please try not to go over 4 minutes. If someone yells time from behind me, that means you hit the 4 minutes, okay? All right, question 1. Ms. Beaver, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So, number 1, do you support the establishment of an additional or any additional tax increment financing districts in the county? That's part 1 of the question. Part 2 is recognizing that the county wouldn't directly benefit from future property tax gains within the district. What steps would you take to ensure that the project, if there was one, would still contribute to the county's long-term economic plan? Got it?
Okay.
Okay.
So, I guess first of all, just for clarification with everyone that's watching too, it's important to state that as a commissioner, that question wouldn't necessarily be something that we would be responsible for. That would be a county council responsibility. But second to that, I do think it's important that we have an understanding of how things work with these things. So my understanding, as I've had people I've asked about it, is that I guess the bottom line is anything that would benefit Connersville would inevitably somewhere in the future also benefit Fayette County. So as I understand it, the way the tax works, in that we would just stay as we are with our entities and what we receive, and then the redevelopment commission would receive the above based on what, how they improve those properties, and so that they would get the excess revenue off of it. And so we wouldn't be receiving any extra revenue or tax money, but we would not be losing. So if we are patient with the process, and that's something, I did get some, when this was all discussed about a year ago, being patient with the process is what I was told from someone who is a city council member in another city in northern Indiana. And his words were, be patient with the process, and you'll see that it will benefit your county as a whole. So he considered it to be a positive thing and not to be afraid of it. So that's just kind of my own take on it after that. I'm going to try to stay positive and be supportive of what the city may decide to do.
Okay. And just so the audience is aware, I already forgot to let everybody do their intros at the beginning. So what we're going to do, it's been a long time since I've been in front of a camera. What we're going to do is I'm going to finish this question, and then I'm going to let you guys actually introduce yourselves and kind of give your pitch. And I apologize, that's normally what I would do, but again, it's been a while since I've been in front of a camera. So Mr. Chambers, you'll be next on this question. And for all of you, I'll ask the questions again every time. So I'm not just going to say, hey, do you remember that, and go forward. So, question 1, do you support the establishment of any additional tax increment financing districts in the county, recognizing that the county wouldn't directly benefit from future property tax gains within the district? what steps would you take to ensure that the project still contributes to the county's long-term economic plan? So there's two parts to that question, obviously. Do you support the establishment? And then recognizing is the second part of that question. Okay?
Okay. So I'm new on that, and I would take it under advisement to make additional, but to my knowledge, we only have 2 TIFs. That's from the city, not the county. Like Tracie said, that's not up to the commissioners, but however, go through, probably be able to help out with the building projects, the process, and make sure that things are getting done, completed on time, and effective.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Wulff, you're last on this question. And I'll ask it again. Do you support the establishment of any additional tax increment finance districts in the county? That's part one. And part two, recognizing that the county won't directly benefit from future property tax gains within the district, what steps would you take to ensure that the project, assuming there is one, of course, would still contribute to the county's long-term economic plan?
I'm supportive of it as long as it helps Fayette County and to help get jobs in and helps the tax base. I know it's going to put a little bit of burden on the county, but we'll have to work along with it, see how it works out. But it's going to take a while to see how long-term projects will work, and it's going to be hard to state right now what your feelings are until the whole project starts up.
Okay. Okay, now we'll let you all introduce yourselves, even though you answered the first question already. And what I've been doing is starting to my left. So, Mr. Wulff, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we'll just go around this way.
I'm Jim Wulff. I'm 76 years old. I run Wulff's Gun Shop in Connersville, Indiana, along with my wife, who I've been married to, Linda, for 45 years. And I've been in gun shop business for 43 years, which I'm planning on selling it and retire and put my time towards the county. I've been working since I'm 9 years old, and I'm not afraid to work or put the time in to get something that'll work for the county or for my family. Okay. And Connersville and Fayette County is one of the poorest counties around, but if we can work towards new jobs and stuff, I'm 100% for everything.
Okay. Ms. Bever?
I'm Tracie Bever, and I'm a lifelong Fayette County resident. And I'm married to Brad Beaver, and I think, how many years is it, Brad? 30, maybe 36 this summer. And we have 4 adult children, all married, 5 beautiful grandchildren. And we operate a small family farm in Orange Township. And we have 2 businesses. I have a catering business and also a venue, wedding and event barn. And we enjoy being with our family, and we love our neighbors. We have a lot of neighbors in our neighborhood that have been there for generations. And so our heart is our desire is to do what's best for our county, because this is the only place we've ever called home. So every decision that I have been a part of already for 2.5 years as a county commissioner has been to consider what I would want for my family. So I've learned a lot in 2.5 years, and I feel like I would be in a position now that I can see it better and desire to do the work. I said to others, I consider the commissioner position to be work, and my 2 other jobs as hobbies.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers.
Okay. My name's Daniel Chambers. I'm 42 years old. I'm not a lifelong resident. I moved here about 6 years ago. Me and my wife, been together for over 20 years. I have 4 children. We decided to make a new start and call Fayette County our home. We own and operate 4 different businesses. We own Quick Nicks. I brought my construction business with me. We do a lot of installations. I have a big, extensive construction background as far as mechanical and skilled trades. We do everything under the sun. Heating and air, plumbing, electrical, excavating. So, I mean, we've got a lot of knowledge on that. We also have another one where we do custom laser works and fabrication. And recently we just bought a food truck. So we're going to try that. Wow. That way we can join the best festivals in town.
Okay. And actually, you will be first on this next question, Mr. Chambers. Question number 2. Fayette County already has one of the highest local income tax rates in the state at 2.57%. Given that the average per capita income in the county is just under $25,000, how would you ensure an additional public safety local income tax does not further impoverish the local community? Can you outline a strategy that balances the need for improved public safety services with the financial realities of our residents? None of these questions are super short or easy, so.
I see that.
Go ahead.
Obviously, I would not like to have any more taxes. We all pay enough taxes. I think there's other avenues that we could look at as far as maybe making cuts at certain spots, making sure we're not wasting money in certain areas as far as projects. Some of them, I've been brought to my attention about some in-county employees and stuff. Maybe we need to do some auditing over that and make sure everybody's doing their job. Maybe we have, I think there's funds out there that we could get to take care of that before we try to talk about increasing taxes.
Okay. Mr. Wulff, the question goes to you next. I'll ask it again. Fayette County already has one of the highest local income tax rates in the state at 2.57%. Given that the average per capita income in the county is under $25,000, how would you ensure an additional public safety local income tax does not further impoverish the local community? Can you outline a strategy that balances the need for improved public safety services with the financial realities of our residents?
A couple days ago, I went to a meeting down at City Hall. That was the first meeting we had with the city between the county council and commissioners, I think, since I've been on there as far as joint meeting. And they want a new tax. There's got to be other revenues we can look at. I talk to people every day in my business that don't have money coming in. They live from week to week. Somebody said, well, what are they doing in gun shop? Well, a lot of people just like come in, have a place to talk. But I think there's other avenues that we can look at. I think we need more meetings between the city and the county to figure out some stuff. But like I said, the other day we had one meeting, they wanted a tax. I think there's other avenues that we need to look at.
Okay.
If it takes cutting back, that's what's got to be done.
Okay. Ms. Bever, the question is now yours. I'll ask it again. Fayette County already has one of the highest local income tax rates in the state at 2.57%. Given that the average per capita income in the county is under $25,000, how will you ensure an additional public safety local income tax does not further impoverish the local community? Can you outline a strategy that balances the need for improved public safety services with the financial realities of our residents?
Okay. It's another question that is not a commissioner's responsibility. This is completely on our county council. So they will be the ones to, you're like, whew. That they're the ones, that's what they do. They're the ones that's going to be making those decisions and making those strategies. Our part is to understand it though. And so with that, I also was at that meeting, and I'm someone who would say I would fully support that safety tax in Fayette County because we need it. And it's 43 cents a day for me to give in order for my community to have what we need, which is our law enforcement, our fire department, our EMS. Our 911 is struggling to be able to keep people as all those departments, and that's based on our pay here is less than anyone around us. And I also agree that we need to look at everything we have and go through it with a fine-tooth comb and find money. But the safety tax is so important at this time that we do something, from my understanding and my opinion, that I couldn't in good conscience say we don't need a safety tax. So I'm for it.
Okay. Okay, question number 3. Mr. Wulff, we'll start with you this time. So question 3 is somewhat similar to question 2, but a slightly different concept. Given that the average county employee income is near poverty levels, with many relying on assistance programs like heating assistance, housing, and SNAP benefits, what steps would you take to address employee compensation and ensure that those who serve our community can afford basic living expenses? For example, would you consider measures like a living wage ordinance, increased compensation, or expanded benefits packages? That's the question.
Our county employees are underpaid badly, and they all deserve a raise. I would support giving them a wage increase, but we're going to have to cut back in other areas on spending. And the council, which I'm on now, we're going to have to go through that here shortly again for budget times. But I want to support our employees. If it's the first aid unit, the fire department, the sheriff's department, they're all underpaid, and I'll agree with that. But I'd like to find other ways coming up with money, and I would like to see this tax put on a ballot and let the taxpayers tell us how they feel. I've got people coming in through the week telling me they don't want no new taxes. She said, you know, there's people out there who want taxes. I think the people ought to vote on that one. Because, you know, like you said, Connersville is a poor county. And let the people decide on what they want on tax.
Okay. Ms. Beaver, you're next on this question. And I'll ask it again. Given that the average county employee income is near poverty levels, with many relying on assistance programs like heating assistance, housing, and SNAP benefits, what steps would you take to address employee compensation and ensure that those who serve our community can afford basic living expenses? For example, would you consider measures like a living wage ordinance, increased compensation, or expanded benefits packages?
Okay.
Go ahead.
So it's kind of split. That's a half and half. That is a question that pertains to both. County council would be deciding their wages. We don't do that as commissioners. They would be deciding whether they get a raise or not. We are the overseers that work or look at and have their benefits part, the insurance and perf and their days off, sick days, all those kind of things. So the two work together, but I don't really honestly have an understanding. The one part of that question, I've never looked that up to know what that is as far as that ordinance that you shared. So I wouldn't want to speak to that.
Okay.
And I don't really know if that is something that a commissioner could do or if that is, again, something that a county council member would need to talk about. But I would say that as much as we can, I do believe that I see it as our department heads. I see it as a management thing. So we have 9 department heads, and there's 225 total, right around there, employees, and that includes the elected officials, and they are also acting as department heads. The commissioners work closely with our auditor, who's considered our chief financial officer, as well as our department head for HR, or human resources. So we are always looking at and wanting to figure out a way. That's what I want people to know. We want people to make more money. But the other piece of it, as I shared with a group of people recently, is to consider where you live. We are Fayette County. We're not Fishers, so we can't, do what they can do. So it is something that needs to be closely looked at, and maybe what my idea would be that department heads would go through their own budgets, the things that they ask for year after year, and really consider areas they could cut. And then we could see that everybody combined with all these departments could actually add up to money. There's also some benefits that could be shaved a little with some of us as elected officials. So we would be the top of that. We need to sacrifice, is what I'm trying to say. If we sacrifice some things, then that puts money back in the bucket, so to speak, for an ability to give to everyone else. So,
Mr. Chambers, the question is now yours. You're last on this question. And I'll ask it again. Given that the average county employee income is near poverty levels, with many relying on assistance programs like heating assistance, housing, and SNAP benefits, what steps would you take to address employee compensation and ensure that those who serve a community can afford basic living expenses? For example, would you consider measures like a living wage ordinance, increased compensation, or expanded benefits packages?
So with the wages, again, that's up to county council. We only get so much money from the state, and I understand that, but it goes back to me saying that I think there's other avenues we could look into, maybe as far as shaving certain things, like Tracie said. There's money there. And then if not, come together with the city. I mean, we put on an event last year that I think did really well. We could do a lot more stuff together, bring in money. Just because the state won't give it to us, we'll make it ourselves. There's other ways to do it. So yeah, I mean, I feel like the employees are very underpaid, but we're trying to fix that, and it's going to take a while to catch up. Cost of living keeps rising, things keep going up, but the state only gives you so much money. So I think maybe if we could try to free up some things, maybe get some grants on some other things and free up to get some extra money and make it promising to increase them wages for the employees.
Okay. Thank you. All right, now we're on to question 4, and since all three of you we've had 3 questions and there's 3 of you, we're back to Ms. Beaver. You'll be number 1 on this question. Question 4. As we near the 2025 solar moratorium expiration, do you support expanding solar energy within the county? That's part 1. Part 2 of the question is, what specific steps would you take to prepare for the anticipated growth in solar projects?
okay, so I'll just say up front, I do not support industrial solar fields and farms that take away from our agriculture and their dependence on, we have 343 farms in Fayette County, and there's their livelihood, there's a lot of that. And our county is made up, for the most part, we're an agricultural community. It was something to consider because we do also have the need to come up with an ordinance that fits with, like Fayette County Schools Corporation has solar. People in their own homes want to have the ability to have solar. Maybe if you just have a few acres, you might want to put some solar panels out to help with the electric bill. So there's an ordinance in place for solar already, but it was being considered to add to that to consider these fields, solar fields and industrial stuff. So we did the moratorium so that we would have more time to really consider all of the effects of it. And after that, I personally couldn't be comfortable with having solar fields around us and taking away from the livelihood of our farmers. But we still have that work to do on an ordinance. So the way that works, we don't write it. Area planning is working on that right now. And so when they get that put together, it'll be given to us to consider as commissioners. And then if we don't think it has all the wording in it that we need for it to protect farms and large areas of acreage, then we'll send it back to them to write it again. So That's where I stand with that. I'm not someone who would say I think all solar projects are bad, but it's not for Fayette County. It's not for us. We aren't made for that.
Okay. Mr. Chambers, you're next on this question. Same question. As we near the 2025 solar moratorium expiration, do you support expanding solar energy within the county? And that's part one. Part two, what specific steps would you take to prepare for the anticipated growth in solar projects?
So I'm 100% against industrial solar fields. We're already short on farm ground. I don't want to eat 3D printed meat. I don't want to do any of that. So looking at, there's a lot to the solar fields. I'm still learning about them. With the effects that they leave, with the leaking of the lead and the cadmium and the mercury into the soil and ruining the soil and the expense and cost of getting rid of them. And it's a no-brainer to me. There's multiple people that their jobs will be cut. We would lose a lot that we need here. So absolutely 100% totally against it. I'm fine with individuals that own their own land, 5 or 10 acres. Once an ordinance is written up, you can do what you want there. If you want to go green, that's totally up to you. But as far as an industrial solar field, no. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wulff, the question, you're the last on this question. I'll ask it again. As we near the 2025 solar moratorium expiration, do you support expanding solar energy within the county? That's the first part of the question. Second part is, what specific steps would you take to prepare for the anticipated growth in solar projects?
I don't support them because of our farmland. It's precious. If it's ruined, it's hard to get it back to where it was. If it's anything like the wind farms, it'd be another mess up. But no, I don't support them.
Okay, we have 2 more questions left. Question 5, and Mr. Chambers, you'll start this one. So question 5 is, the commissioners and the county council approved the construction and renovation of the Dollar General store for the women's work release and women's detention facility, often referred to as the John Clark Plan, in reference to former county councilman John Clark, who authored this plan. It has been mentioned in previous meetings that this was something that needed to be strictly adhered to in order to afford the addition of 10 to 15 additional jail staff. How do you propose to ensure that funding is there for these future needed jail staff?
Well, unfortunately, our jails are already overcrowded. I like that the women's release program started. It's only fair. We gave it to the men. As far as making sure the money's there, again, trying to find other avenues. There's got to be stuff in there that you don't get to see, unfortunately, until you have that position. But I think there's money there. There's money that can be made. There's fundraising. There's other ways to do it, again, to avoid any kind of increased taxes. I got to get in there to look at the books.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wulff, you're next on this one, and then Ms. Beaver, you'll be last on this one.
This county's been lucky.
Well, I was going to ask it again, but if you want to answer
Go ahead.
Okay, question 5. The commissioners and county council approved the construction and renovation of the Dollar General store for the women's work release and women's detention facility, the often referred to John Clark Plan, in reference to former county councilman John Clark, who authored this plan. It has been mentioned in previous meetings that this was something that needed to be strictly adhered to in order to afford the addition of 10 to 15 additional jail staff. How do you propose to ensure that funding is there for these future needed jail staff?
Ready?
Yes, go ahead.
This county has been very lucky because we could have had a class action lawsuit from the women for not having the same rights as the men did. I think we dodged the bullet on that one. But we're just, the council, which I'm a member of right now, and the commissioners, the council's going to have to watch the spending, make sure the money's there. And I think if they budget it right, they'll be there. And because there'll be cost on the women for being there, they'll have to pay part of it. But I support it, and I think it's a good deal, and as long as we watch what we're spending, we'll be all right.
Okay. Ms. Beaver, you get to answer this question now, and I'll ask it again. The commissioners, it's kind of a long one. The commissioners of the county council approve the construction and renovation of the Dollar General store for the Women's Work Release and Women's Detention Facility, the often referred to John Clark Plan, in reference to former County Councilman John Clark, who authored this plan. It's been mentioned in previous meetings that this was something that needed to be strictly adhered to in order for the additional 10 to 15, in order to afford the addition of 10 to 15 additional jail staff. How do you propose to ensure that the funding is there for these future needed jail staff?
Okay, this was all being discussed and decided upon actually when I first became a commissioner. And I completely agree with what Jim said. We need it. And also what you said, jail's crowded. So it had to happen. And then also, yes, thank goodness for John Clark, who had the ability to put it all on a piece of paper and show us how it could work. I'm also on with Jim. We're both on the Community Corrections Advisory Board, which is a piece of that facility and responsibility. The majority of really is theirs. So the way we've discussed it being funded, the way I understand it is not 10 to 15 additional jail staff. It's 3. And with that, those 3, their salaries will be paid for and benefits because of the project income that comes from. It will be 18 women who will be able to be there in the community corrections program. And from the state, when they came down from the DOC and their excitement for this project that we're doing, there's only a few in the state of Indiana, and they have absolutely no doubt that we will always be full. So it will be a good thing, and I don't imagine it at all being a problem it's going to be a benefit to us and going to provide additional income for that program. So it's going to be good. Like we've been a part of a lot of meetings, and it's all been positive. So the jail will have oversight of it, though. And so, but the corrections department is going to be very much a part of that, carrying a load of an expense also for what they need. So it's coming together.
Okay. Okay, last but not least, we reached the 6th question. And on this one, Mr. Wulff, you'll go first, Ms. Beaver second, and Mr. Chambers, you get this one last. Question 6. Fayette County, along with the city of Connersville, have been fortunate to receive grants from the state of Indiana to improve roads. In your opinion, is the county doing enough with those grant dollars, or do you feel that there's something else that could be done? That one's pretty simple, actually. Simple. Yeah, simpler than the other ones. Go ahead.
I've been on the county council for 3 terms. I have not heard one complaint about any of the roads. I hear about a chuck hole every now and then, or a bump in the road, but as far as I've heard, I haven't heard that much about the county roads, so I guess a lot of the people are happy. If they're unhappy, call me and let me know.
Okay, Ms. Beaver, same question. I'll ask it again. These shorter questions are so much easier for me to ask. Fayette County, along with the city of Connersville, have been fortunate to receive grants from the state of Indiana to improve roads. In your opinion, is the county doing enough with those grant dollars, or do you feel that there's something else that could be done?
Okay, so how it works is annually, it's an NDOT grant, which is the Indiana Department of Transportation. I'm trying to help people know. And it's a community corrections crossings grant. And so the way it works is we have acquired a service through Butler Fairman, which does engineering service. And our road has to have, in order to apply for this grant, you have to have and go through the process of having all your roads, go through, it's called the PACER program, where they basically go through all your roads. And like I said, we have 394 miles of roads, so they go through it all. And they've included this year bridges. So these grants can also be used for bridges if we like. And so they come back and meet with commissioners after they've done this road like grading system, so we can see what roads are the worst, what's the best, and then recommendations we receive from them. And then it's sent back to the Indiana Department of Transportation and for them to review. And then they also know, so they are the ones that ultimately approve or disapprove of what roads we pave. Those grant monies really are more, or grant decisions, I'll say, is really more their decision than ours. We're just the person or the people in the middle that are doing the work that needs to be done. And, you know, we make a recommendation of a road or two, and then it has to line up, is what I'm saying, with certain factors. And that means even the traveling, not just the condition of the road, but also the traffic on that road. So they have things that it's kind of like a point system, so to speak. So this year is a good news we got. I wanted to share that also. They increased their grant giving per year. It used to have a maximum they would give of $1 million, and this year it's going to be $1.5 million. So we're going to be, you know, potentially getting more money to improve our roads and bridges. We have 87 bridges, so we have a lot to keep up with here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chambers, you're last on this one, and it's the last question. Again, Fayette County, along with the City of Connersville, have been fortunate to receive grants from the state of Indiana to improve roads. In your opinion, is the county doing enough with those grant dollars, or do you feel that there's something else that could be done?
I have so many people come to me and complain about the roads, and I'm not even a commissioner yet. There's some good roads out there, but there's some horrible roads out there. I can't tell you how many times I've had to replace suspension and tires on my work vehicles and everything else because I'm in Fayette County. I think there needs to be some different things done. There's a lot of chip sealing done. That's a waste of money. As soon as the plow hits it's gone. That's just going into the ditch. That's throwing money away versus fixing the problem. You have to get down and you have to fix the problem. Like I said, chip sealing, that's a waste of money. I get it. It's most counties' Band-Aids, and unfortunately most counties go to that, but I think it's a waste of time, waste of money, waste of funds, resources. Again, like she said, they don't really get to pick the roads, but maybe we could take them down some roads that really need it, show them like, hey, there's a lot more here. So in my opinion, no, I don't think we are. I think we could do better. I think it just needs to be a different infrastructure set up. So.
Okay.
Can I have an opportunity to speak to that?
No, because we don't really let anybody do
Okay.
that. Sorry. Just everybody gets their time, and then when their time's up. What I will do, though, if you guys have, we'll start with you this time since we start over there. If you have closing remarks you'd like to make, preferably not on a specific question, you can. So usually this is the time when you tell voters more about yourself, or why maybe they should vote for you, or those types of things. So we'll start with you, and then we'll go this way.
Okay. I'm a for the people type of person. I'm so far from a politician, it's not even funny. I'm just trying to get involved with my community, trying to help my community out, be the voice for my community. I'm here, I'm a backbone for you. I ask for your vote. I'm a proactive person. I think we need more proactive people in these positions than reactive people. I'm asking for your vote on May 7th. Give me a shot. If you're looking for that change, I'm the one who hasn't stepped foot in office yet. So I'd appreciate your support on May 7th.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Beaver?
Okay. I would just say I've learned a lot about the real inner working of county government since I became a county commissioner 2.5 years ago. I was an Orange Township trustee before that, and doing my business, working my business. So I really had no idea the complexity of county government, and so there are a lot of things that do need to be made better, changed, improved upon. But you know, when you step into the middle of so many things, you're really just going to take it all in for a while and put things in categories and figure out where you're at with all these projects and things that need worked on, which definitely I totally agree with the roads as far as for our own personal county. That question I answered was concerning grants. So yes, we have a need for some change in some departments. I'm very much about that. I've been a voice about that. But as you all will know, there's 3 county commissioners, so one doesn't act without at least one other one. And it's really good though that it's made that way also. It's hard, but if you just have one person in there trying to run around and dictate, tell everybody what to do, we don't really want that either. We need the checks and balances in place, but I am very much a proactive person. I see things. I have 40 years experience with management. County government has become just another type of huge management, and it isn't easy. But I do believe we've made great progress. I think if you were to speak with people who work with me, even work in the county, they would say positive things about what they know because I really care. I listen. I take everything into consideration. I gather knowledge. I don't just react and assume that I got the answer. And I also have integrity. That's what's most important to me, is character and integrity. So we have guidelines. We have books, to follow. Just abide by what we're supposed to do, and it's a better work environment. And the department heads is an issue for me to really, I would like for things to change in different areas. Some are doing great, and a few, maybe in the highway especially, we could use some support and help there and making some great changes. So if you would choose to allow me to serve, now that I've looked at it, I see what it really is, I'm ready to do this for Fayette County. And I'm hopeful that you'll support me and vote.
Thank you. And Mr. Wulff, you're last on this one.
I've been on the county council for 12 years off and on, and I think the reason I moved to run for county commissioner is I'm retiring from a gun shop. I'm going to have extra hours, and I'm going to do something down at the courthouse that hasn't been done. Jim Wulff's going to sit up hours through the week to where you come in. If you got a problem, you come in and talk to me. The door will be open. I don't know what the hours will be. I have to wait to see if I get elected or not. I haven't won it yet. And but my phone will always be open too. I'll give it to anybody that wants it, but I think I got the experience to do it. It'll be a different step because we'll be over the maintenance and over the highway department instead of over all the budget. We'll watch our spending on what we're doing. So if you think you can vote for me, I appreciate your vote. Come May the 7th. And I want to thank everybody, and especially want to thank Channel 3 and the News Examiner for putting this on tonight. And in other countries, we don't do this. But in the United States, I'm proud of it, and I'm glad we can do it.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, okay. And I thank the 3 of you for coming in too and participating in this. This ends the County Commissioner District 3 portion of our primary election debate this evening. We still have the County Commission District 2 race coming up here probably pretty quickly. So look forward to seeing everyone back here in just a few minutes. Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen, and we are here again for the Fayette County primary election debate. This time we are going to be doing County Commission District 2 race. We have two candidates, Mr. Hammons and Mr. Munson, for this primary, which again is May 7th, so in just a few weeks, on Tuesday, May 7th. Again, my name is William Carroll, and I am the executive editor of the Southern Indiana News Group and the Central Indiana News Group, which is a fancy way of saying that I oversee the company that controls and owns the Connersville News Examiner, which is part of Paxa Media Group. So what we're going to do here with our two candidates, you both will get the same 6 questions that the other candidates got. What we're going to do is basically, and you guys are in the perfect order for me. We'll start with you on the first question, and then we'll just flip-flop you on each question. So you'll go first on half the questions, you'll go last, and vice versa. That way, you each get a chance to hear the other guy answer the question first, okay? And then what we'll start with is, for the folks who are watching, give you all an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself really quickly and just tell the voters a little bit about yourself here at the beginning. So, Mr. Hammons, if you want to start, go ahead.
My name's Jason Hammons. I've lived in this area all my life. I have a beautiful wife and 4 children, and I work at the Hydro Extruder, and I've been there for going on 14 years. I do plant engineering there. Work with contracts, work with contractors, buy lots of equipment, deal with big projects, and see them through to completion. That's about it.
Okay. Mr. Munson?
My name's Dale Munson. I'm a long life resident of Fayette County. Grew up in the western side of the county. We've farmed all my life. I've been married to my wife Nina for almost 40 years. Have 2 grown boys and 4 grandkids, and 1 more on the way. And I've worked at the first aid unit here in Connersville for almost 30 years.
Okay, Mr. Hammons, we'll start with you first on this, the very first question that we're going to do here. Question 1. And just so you guys know, I'll ask you both the question. So, like, when I ask you the question, I'll ask it to you again as we go back and forth, so you don't have to just, remember what the question is. Question 1. Do you support the establishment of any additional tax increment finance districts in the county? That's part 1 of the question. Part 2 is, recognizing that the county won't directly benefit from future property tax gains within the district, what steps would you take to ensure that the project still would contribute to the county's long-term economic plan? Go ahead.
That's a lot to remember.
I know it is. It's a lot to read.
Yeah. Read that first one again for me.
Do you support the establishment of any additional tax increment financing districts in the county?
I do support it, yes.
Okay. And then the next part of the question would be, recognizing that the county won't directly benefit from future property tax gains because of the nature of how TIFs are structured, what steps would you take to ensure the project would still contribute to the county's long-term economic plan?
Well, if I understand the question correctly, I would want it to benefit the city and the county both.
Okay.
That way it would make things, I think that would be a good communication piece of it too, because the city and the county need to communicate better.
Okay. Anything else on that one?
No, that's
Okay,
it.
that's all. Okay, Mr. Munson, same question to you. 2-part question. Question 1, do you support the establishment of any additional tax increment financing districts in the county? That's part 1. Part 2, recognizing that the county won't directly benefit from future property tax gains within the district, at least initially, what steps will you take to ensure that the project still contributes to the county's long-term economic plan?
I'm not 100% sure that a TIF is a good thing, but since we have them, we're going to have more of them more than likely. We're going to have to work with them. It will not initially help the county, but in the long run, I believe it will, because to answer part of your second question, it will move hopefully more people into the community, which we will collect taxes off of their property taxes, off of their income tax, and add more people into the community. And just like Jason said, the city and the county needs to start working together.
Okay. Okay, since there's two of you and we're flip-flopping, now I'll start with you, Mr. Munson, on this next question. Question 2. Fayette County already has one of the highest local income tax rates in the state at 2.57%. Given that the average per capita income in the county is under $25,000, how will you ensure an additional public safety local income tax does not further impoverish the local community? This is a long one too. Next part. Can you outline a strategy that balances the need for improved public safety services with the financial realities of our residents? That's the question.
Okay, can you give me the first half of that again,
Yes,
please?
it's okay. Fayette County already has one of the highest local income tax rates in the state at 2.57%. Given that the average per capita income in the county is under $25,000, how would you ensure additional public safety local income tax does not further impoverish the local community? So just to make this easier, the first part is when we're talking about a local income tax with public safety, how would you ensure it wouldn't further impoverish people? And then the second part is balancing public safety interests with the needs of the residents as far as finances are concerned.
I think how do I want to say this? I don't believe for the cost of what it will end up costing per person off of your income that it's going to create a major problem. I think there will be some tightening of some belts, but I believe it's going to be able to be handled. And on the other side of it, if we don't initiate this, I think our emergency services are going to go by the wayside, and we can't have that, because if that goes down, your property insurance goes up, everything goes up, your quality of life changes. So I believe we really need to have this.
Okay. Mr. Hammons, you get to answer this one now. Question 2. Fayette County already has one of the highest local income tax rates in the state at 2.57%. Given that the average per capita income in the county is under $25,000, how will you ensure an additional public safety local income tax does not further impoverish the local community? That's part 1. Part 2, can you outline a strategy that balances the need for improved public safety services with the financial realities of our residents? Okay, that's the question.
Okay. Well, I was going to tell you, don't waste your time reading that question. But anyway,
To be fair, I have to read it again for everybody.
we all need EMS. We all need police. We all need them services. So if we're going to keep that service, which I know everybody needs that service, we're going to have it. We're going to have to ask for help from taxes. So that's my answer.
Okay. Okay, now you get to go first. We just keep flip-flopping. So, question 3. These are all really long questions, just by the way. 3. Given, and this one kind of relates somewhat to the one I just asked. Question 3. Given that the average county employee income, we're talking about county employees, average county employee income is near poverty levels, with many relying on assistance programs like heating assistance, housing, and SNAP benefits, what steps would you take to address employee compensation and ensure that those who serve our community can afford basic living expenses? For example, would you consider measures like a living wage ordinance, increased compensation, or an expanded benefits or expanded benefits packages for county employees? Okay.
Okay.
That's the question, sorry.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I would probably, I would reach out and see what other communities are doing, and I would adjust wages. That's what I would do, and that goes back to that other question. I would ask for help from the taxpayers to do it, because we need those county employees. We need these people.
Okay. And now this same question goes to you, Mr. Munson. I'll read it again. Given that the average county employee income is near poverty levels, with many relying on assistance programs like heating assistance, housing, and SNAP benefits, what steps would you take to address employee compensation and ensure that those who serve our community can afford basic living expenses? For example, would you consider measures like a living wage ordinance, increased compensation, or expanded benefits packages?
Well, I'd kind of like to answer that from the lower end to the front.
However you want.
We have to help our county employees. They have to have a better wage. I mean, we're to the point that we're losing them to other counties because of our wages. But to get that up through our economic development and other places, we've got to start getting other companies into this city or in county. We have to know why they're not coming. And I believe once we get that figured out, get stuff started moving companies in, we can get our income brought up through the property taxes and other taxes. And then we can start offsetting some of this to where the employee can make a decent wage.
Okay. Okay, now you'll start this next question.
Hope it's a short
Basically, you
one.
just get, oh, what's that?
A short question.
This one's actually is short. and hopefully fairly easy. So, question 4. As we near the 2025 solar moratorium expiration, do you support expanding solar energy within the county? That's part 1 of the question. Part 2 is, what specific steps would you take to prepare for the anticipated growth in solar projects?
Well, I am not a big fan of the solar industry. We have to look at it though. It has to be set up. If the moratorium expires, we move into the possibility of getting solar. We have to make sure it is fair for everybody, the company, the farmer, the farmer's neighbor. We have to make sure it's done right. And hopefully that's what the hold off on this moratorium is for, is to make sure everything's right. But we need it. We need to protect our farmland also. We can't, if anything, where there's possibility, we need to put a limit of so many acres can be allowed in Fayette County to go to this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hammond, same question. As we near the 2025 solar moratorium expiration, do you support expanding solar energy within the county? That's part 1. Part 2, what specific steps would you take to prepare for the anticipated growth in solar projects?
Well, I don't support solar. There's solar has its places. And if it was overrun with solar, just like Dale said, we would have to go to and see what effects it's going to have on property values. The neighbors, getting up, looking at that, the solar systems out there, and we're going to have to check with everyone on it.
Okay.
So.
Now again, since we keep flip-flop, basically you guys get to answer like 2 questions back to back. So at a certain point, so you get to start this one, Mr. Hammons, and this one's really long. So next question: the commissioners and the county council approved the construction and renovation of the Dollar General store for the women's work release and women's detention facility, the often referred to John Clark plan, in reference to former county councilman John Clark, who authored the plan. It has been mentioned in previous meetings that this was something that needed to be strictly adhered to in order to afford the addition of additional jail staff. How do you propose to ensure that the funding is there for these future needed jail staff? It's not a hard question, it's just long.
I bet you've repeated that several times.
I have. You want me to repeat it?
No.
I can read it again, it's not a big deal. Commissioners and County Council approved the construction and renovation of the Dollar General store for the women's work release and women's detention facility, the often referred to John Clark plan, in reference to former County Councilman John Clark, who authored the plan. It has been mentioned in previous meetings that this was something that needed to be strictly adhered to in order to afford the addition of additional jail staff at the facility. How do you propose to ensure that the funding is there for these future needed jail staff? Fundamentally, the question is, how do you propose to ensure the funding is there?
That's a good one.
It's yours to answer.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, being I don't have a whole heck of a lot of time to think about that.
It's kind of the beauty of these.
Oh yeah, they're good. I don't have a real good answer for that one.
You have up to 4 minutes. You can take it if you want.
Can I come back?
No. You have to
That ain't
answer it in the
gonna work
order I
like
ask it. Sorry.
That's all. That's fine. Like I said, we're probably going to have to ask for help on trying to maintain it, or and guarantee future funds, come along, and we're going to have to just take better care of some of the structures I see around here. But that's going into a whole nother subject, so I'm not going to get started on that. So anyway, go ahead, Dale. You got this.
Okay, I'll ask it again, even though it's long. The Commissioners and the County Council approved the construction and renovation of the Dollar General store for the Women's Work Release and Women's Detention Facility, the often referred to John Clark Plan, in reference to the former County Councilman John Clark, who authored this plan. It has been mentioned in previous meetings that this was something that needed to be strictly adhered to in order to afford the addition of additional jail staff. How do you propose to ensure that the funding is there for these future needed jail staff members?
Well, we need to, like you say, adhere to how John had wrote that. We also need to go back and talk with the DOC, make sure we can get the income from the DOC that will help offset some of the cost of the personnel, which once you do that, then we were, by his figures, was able to come back and protect the employee through the tax side of it.
Okay. Now you get to answer this one first. Question 6, and luckily the last question. Fayette County, along with the city of Connersville, has been fortunate to receive grants from the state of Indiana to improve roads. This one's short. In your opinion, is the county doing enough with those grant dollars, or do you feel that there's something else that could be done?
Well, we've received grants every year since I've been in office from it's community crossings grants. We were getting, if I'm remembering right, $1 million a year. We had to match 25%, and we've been doing that out of the county highways budget. This past year, it's been raised to, I believe it was 1.5 million, and we still are able to match it, our share of 25% out of the county. And we're probably the last 3 years, and I'm just using rough numbers, we've probably have repaved probably 15, maybe 20 mile of road. And if we can keep doing this, we'll eventually get everything. But we do get a chart that states our worst road to the best roads. So we go through our worst ones is where we pick what roads will be paved. So I feel we're trying to do the best we can.
Okay. And Mr. Hammons, now you'll get this question. Fayette County, along with the city of Connersville, have been fortunate to receive grants from the state of Indiana to improve roads. In your opinion, is the county doing enough with those grant dollars, or do you feel that there's something else that could be done?
I feel that they are doing quite a bit with that money. There can always be more done, of course. Dale's been in this for a while, and he knows the exact numbers of money, dollar amounts. I think we should be, as soon as the weather breaks, I think we should be doing the paving right away and then starting on the patchwork and not wait until the winter time and wasting product and trying to do roads when it's too late in the year, so we're wasting money there. So that's my answer.
Okay, so now we have reached the end of our Fayette County primary election debate and the end of County Commission District 2 for everyone who's watching at home. What I've been doing and allowing everybody to do, and since we started with you, we'll start with you this time. If you guys would like to make kind of a closing statement to those people who are watching about yourself, your candidacy, basically kind of whatever you want to say at the end here. We'll start with you, Dale.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you for having us, and I've enjoyed it. It's been kind of nervous getting here, but it's been interesting. And I just want to say, get out and vote, and we're trying to do our best that we can.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Hammons, your closing remarks?
Like Dale said, thanks for watching. Thanks for having us here. You know, everybody here is good people. You know, just my thing is just get out and vote for someone. Yeah, I appreciate your vote, but Dale's a good person. You know, all these people here are good people. You know, just get out and exercise your right to vote. You know, so
Okay.
thank you.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone who's come here and participated in this today. Again, for those people at home, primary election day for all the races that we talked about this evening is Tuesday, May 7th, which is less than 3 weeks away, basically. So I appreciate it on behalf of myself and the staff here. We wish you a good evening. Thank you.